Welcome back to Play the Game HQ. I'm Daniel, and in this video, we're going to teach you how to play Land vs. Sea and the Land vs. Sea Uncharted expansion from Good Games Publishing, who helped sponsor this video. We'll cover the base game and the Uncharted expansion in this video, but we'll go over the entire base game first and then cover the expansion. So if you already know how to play Land vs. Sea and you just need the expansion rules, you can skip to the second half of the video. And of course, we'll leave time codes in the description so you can easily find your way around all of the different rule variants if you're looking for something specific. At its core, Land vs. Sea is a head-to-head tile laying game with variants that add in new rules and strategic decisions that will increase the complexity and add scoring opportunities, as well as variants for 3 and 4 players. In addition to the basic gameplay, there's 3 variants that can be used in the base game, and the Uncharted expansion adds in new tiles to extend the gameplay, as well as 3 more scoring variants that can be used individually or combined together with any of the other scoring options in the game. The basic idea of Land vs. Sea is right there in the name. One player is land, one player is sea, and you'll be laying tiles and building out this landscape, trying to benefit yourself without helping the other player too much. And at times, you're probably just going to be trying to sabotage the other player. Anytime a completed area of land or sea is fully enclosed, it will score for either the land or sea player, regardless of who played the tile, with some potential bonus points for the active player. There's also action tiles that let you take extra turns and steal tiles, and the game ends when the last tile is placed. And the player with the highest score at the end of the game wins. In the core game, all of the scoring will be done as you play, but there's variants that add in more scoring layers as well as in-game scoring, and we'll cover all of those and the 3 and 4 player rules after we go over the basic 2 player rules. To set up the game, take the 2 scoring tokens and randomly give 1 to each player. The player that gets orange plays as land, and the player that gets blue plays as sea. Put the box next to the play area with the 2 scoring tokens on 0, then find the starting tile and put it in the middle of the table. Find the double-sided volcano tile, that's going to be the only tile in the game that is all land on one side and all sea on the other, and set that aside but within reach. Then shuffle the remaining tiles into 2 equal stacks and put those off to the side where both players can reach them. And finally, players take turns starting with the land player drafting their starting tiles. Take 1 at a time until each player has 2 tiles. The tiles are 2-sided and you can't look at the bottom side of the tile until you take it. And once you do, you should keep that other side hidden from the other player. Once both players have their 2 tiles, it's time to start playing. Land always goes first, and on your turn, you'll play 1 tile from your hand onto the map. You can use either side of the tile, and the tile can go anywhere in the map as long as each connected edge matches the tile it's touching. So land always has to match up to land, and sea always has to match up to sea. You can never play a tile so that land is touching the sea edge of another tile. And if you're placing a tile where it matches up to multiple tiles, you have to make sure that all of the edges match up correctly. If you play an action tile, you immediately take that action, and there's 2 types of action tiles in the game. The steal tile with the swords and the play again tile with the compass. If you play a steal tile, you can steal 1 tile from another player, but you can't look at the hidden side of the tile until you commit to stealing it. If you have a tile stolen from you, you won't draw back up until the end of your turn, so you'll play your next turn 1 tile short. And you can never steal a player's last tile in a 2-player game or in a 3 to 4 player game. A play again tile lets you immediately play another tile from your hand, but you don't get to draw a tile first, so if you play 2 play again tiles in a row, you won't get an extra turn from the second tile. Once you play your tile and resolve any actions, score any completed areas that you made on your turn. A completed area is any area of land or sea that is fully enclosed. So this tile creates a completed area of sea because there's no more open sides on this sea area. When a land or sea area is fully enclosed, it scores for the player that controls that terrain type, regardless of who placed the tile. And enclosed areas score 1 point for each tile in that area. So this enclosed area of sea will score 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 points for 6 tiles. You'll track your score on the scoreboard as you gain points, and we will be tracking the score as we do scoring examples in this video, but don't pay too close attention to the scoreboard because we're going to be jumping through different scoring variants, so it is most definitely going to be inaccurate by the end of the video. If you ever have more than 50 points, just move back to the start of the score track. If you enclose an area on your turn, you also score 1 bonus point for each of these cross symbols inside the area you enclosed, regardless of whether it's land or sea. So if I'm land and I enclose this sea area on my turn, the other player would score 6 points for the sea area, but I would score 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points for the bonus points. And if you manage to enclose multiple areas with a single tile, you will score each of those areas separately. If you ever surround an empty space with all land or all sea edges, immediately place the volcano and whirlpool tile. That's the 2-sided tile that we set aside at the beginning of the game that's solid land on one side and solid sea on the other side. And once it's placed, it stays there for the rest of the game, even if you create another space where it could fit later in the game. When the area this tile is in is fully enclosed, it scores just like any other tile. Once you've scored any completed areas and bonus points, draw back up to 2 tiles, and then it's the next player's turn. And just like the beginning of the game, you can take from either stack, but you can't look at the hidden side until you commit to taking that tile. Usually you'll just be drawing 1 tile, but if you played an action tile or had a tile stolen, you might need to take 2 tiles or no tiles if you stole one from another player. If you do need to draw 2 tiles, you are allowed to take them one at a time and check the hidden side first before you draw your second tile. And in the most basic set of rules, play will continue this way with each player placing a tile, scoring areas they completed, scoring bonus points, and refilling their hand until the last tile is played. All of the scoring for this version of the game is tracked as the game goes on, so the player with the highest score when the game ends wins. Strategically, as you're playing, there's a few things you'll want to consider. You need to pay attention to what the other player is doing and decide whether you want to focus on your own points or try to sabotage them. Sometimes it's beneficial to close off one of their spaces while it's still small. This will give them a few points but can keep them from making areas that are too large and more valuable. On the other hand, sometimes large areas can get out of control and will be difficult to close off later, so if the other player is working towards a very large area, it might be in your best interest to add to that area with tiles that have a lot of open sides, so it's going to be harder or sometimes near impossible to close off and score. And if you can't keep an area open and you're pretty confident the other player is going to close it soon, it may be worthwhile to go ahead and close it off for them so at least you get the bonus points. And all of this has to be balanced against scoring points for yourself. The goal, after all, is to score the most points, and sometimes the best way to score more points than your opponent isn't just scoring points for yourself, it's sabotaging them and keeping them from even being able to score. So now that we've covered the basic gameplay, let's talk about the variants. All of these variants build off the basic gameplay, so we're not going to rehash scoring of bonus points in completed areas. Just know that all of this scoring is in addition to all of those basic rules. There's 3 variants we're going to cover: mountains and coral, trade routes, and waypoints. Most of these scoring variants have to do with different artwork and icons that you'll find on the tiles, and if you pay close attention and consider these when you're picking a tile, they can be a huge source of points for you. Some tiles have mountain and coral artwork on them, like these 2 tiles. These are mountains and this is coral, and they will always cover either 2 or 3 edges on the tile they're on. These are played just like normal tiles, but whenever a mountain section is connected to another mountain section, regardless of who plays that tile, the land player gets 1 point for each tile in that continuous section. So adding this tile here would score 1, 2, 3 points for the 3 tiles in this section. And if another tile was added here with a mountain section, that would be 4 points on that turn. And coral works the same way, but for the sea player, 1 point per continuous section of coral. And the artwork has to be continuous to score mountains and corals, not just on adjacent tiles. So right now, this coral is adjacent to this coral, but if I played it like this is still a legal placement, and the tiles are adjacent, but the coral artwork is not continuous between those 2 tiles, so this would not score any points. You'll also find tiles throughout the game with ships and caravans. That's the sailboats and the covered wagons. Whenever you place a ship or caravan tile next to another ship or caravan tile, immediately score 2 points. It doesn't matter which edges you connect as long as the tiles are adjacent, and it doesn't matter whether it's a ship or a caravan. A ship next to a ship next to a caravan, or a caravan next to a caravan, they all score 2 points when you place that tile. In addition to their immediate scoring, ships and caravans also score at the end of the game by forming trade routes. And either land or sea will score each trade route based on whether ships or caravans have the majority in that route. Keep in mind this map would be much larger at the end of an actual game, but for the sake of this example, we'll score this as if this was the map at the end of the game. Anytime you have multiple ships and caravans adjacent to each other, that's a trade route, and you'll probably have multiple trade routes across your map. Each of those is going to score separately, so for each trade route on the map, locate all of the tiles that are part of it and count the number of ships and the number of caravans. So this trade route we were looking at has 3 tiles, it has 2 ships and 1 caravan. If there's more caravans than ships, land scores 1 point per caravan and sea scores nothing. And if there's more ships, sea scores 1 point per ship and land scores nothing. And if there's a tie for ships and caravans, then neither player scores anything. So in this case, there's 2 ships and 1 caravan, so sea would score 2 points. And you'll score each trade route the same way, but it's important to note that a trade route has to have more than 1 tile, so this lone caravan here does not score as a trade route. And the final scoring variant in the base game uses waypoints, which are these additional land and sea tokens. Waypoints are like bonus points that you can use to score yourself a few extra points or encourage the other player to help complete your areas. Waypoints are really recommended anytime you play with 3 or 4 players, but they can also be used in 2-player games. To play with waypoints, give each player one of their matching waypoints at the beginning of the game. Then at the end of your turn, after you've played your tile and scored, you can put your waypoint onto any matching land or sea area of an open tile. Matching meaning the land waypoint on land and the sea waypoint on sea, an open tile meaning it has at least one open edge on it, and it has to be a tile that doesn't already have a waypoint. So at the end of Sea's turn, they could place this waypoint on this open sea area. Once a waypoint is on the map, it can't be moved until it's returned when either the area that it's part of gets fully enclosed and completed, or the tile with that waypoint on it is surrounded by 6 tiles. And whoever returns the waypoint to its owner gets 1 bonus point. So by playing this tile here, I would complete this sea area and I would get to return this waypoint to the sea player and score 1 bonus point. You can also play land versus sea with either 3 or 4 players. We'll cover 4 players first because it's similar to 2 players, but you're playing in teams. To play with 4 players, divide into teams of 2. One team is land and one team is sea, and you'll sit around the table alternating land, then sea, then land, then sea, and the youngest land player goes first. Give each player a waypoint matching their team, and one person on each team should have their waypoint face up and the other should have theirs face down, so you can keep up with who each waypoint belongs to. Then take turns drafting tile until each player has 2 tiles in front of them, then play like normal, going clockwise around the table, taking turns just like a standard 2-player game. You aren't allowed to show anybody, including your teammate, the hidden side of your tiles, and teammates aren't allowed to communicate or offer advice about where tiles should be placed. No gestures, no body language, no pointing. Instead, you're going to use your waypoints to give hints about what you might like your teammate to do or which part of the map you want to focus on. So if I'm on the land team and I had something that I could close off this area on my next turn, I might put my waypoint here to let my teammate know that it would be really great if they could work on this side. The placement and scoring of waypoints is the same as the standard rules, and both teammates' waypoints can be in the same area as long as they're on separate tiles. So it is possible to complete an area and score multiple points from waypoints. You are allowed to remind your teammate to place their waypoint, you just can't tell them where to place it. If you'd like a more relaxed 4-player game, you can use the free play mode that allows players to freely communicate and suggest where things should be played, but you still can't show the hidden side of your tiles. And finally, for the base game, let's talk about the 3-player rules, which adds in the cartographer. For 3 players, 1 player will be the cartographer and they'll use the green scoring token on the scoreboard. You should sit around the table going land, sea, then cartographer. Land goes first and turns work just like the normal game. You'll score for completed areas and whoever completes an area gets the bonus points, but the cartographer doesn't score land or sea. Instead, they score for any chains of mountains and corals that are played by any player. So instead of land scoring for adjacent mountains and sea scoring for adjacent coral, the cartographer scores all of those points instead. And just as a reminder, whenever mountain is placed adjacent to mountain or coral adjacent to coral, that scores 1 point for each tile in that string of mountains or coral sections. Ships and caravans still score the active player 2 points whenever they're placed adjacent to each other, but at the end of the game when you score trade routes, the cartographer scores 1 point per ship or caravan in any trade route that has an equal number of ships and caravans. And waypoints work the same way as the standard game. The cartographer doesn't have a waypoint to place, but they can still score by returning waypoints to their owners. And those are all of the different ways you can play land versus sea from 2 players to 4 players with all of the scoring variants included in the base game. Now let's talk about the Uncharted expansion. This expansion adds 2 new large double-sided starting tiles that open up the potential for you to score starting on your very first turn. There's 2 double-sided special tiles similar to the Whirlpool and Volcano tile, 24 additional regular tiles, bonus scoring tokens, and 3 new scoring variants that can be played on their own or mixed and matched with any or all of the scoring variants from the base game. And you can really dial in the level of complexity you want from game to game by mixing different scoring variants, using fewer for a simpler game and using all of them for a more complex game with huge scoring potential. And when it's time to put the game away, if you want to separate the base game and expansion, all of the Uncharted expansion tiles have this small gold ring on both sides of the tile, so you can tell which ones are from the base game and which ones are from the expansion. Everything you need to play the new variants is included on the new tiles. So first, pick one of the new starting tiles to use and put it in the middle of the table. Then set the 2 new all land and sea tiles to the side with the Volcano and Whirlpool tile, and shuffle the 24 new tiles in with the base game and split those into 3 pretty even stacks of tiles. And from there, the gameplay is the same as the base game with the new potential ways to score. And because of those new ways to score, the points can go much higher, so be sure to make a stack of bonus scoring tiles to use when you inevitably pass 50 points. Now let's look at all the new ways to score. First, we have the Menhirs variant. Menhirs are these stone monuments. When you place a tile that creates a complete row of tiles between two menhirs, you form a mystic line of power called a ley line between those two menhirs. And when you create a ley line, you immediately score 1 point for each bonus icon on every tile on that line. Those are the same cross icons that give you bonus points when you enclose an area. So when this menhir was placed, that would have created a ley line between these two menhirs, and I would score 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 points for the bonus icons in that ley line. If there's gaps in the rows between two menhirs, it won't score until the gap is filled, but whoever fills that gap would immediately score the ley line. If I were to fill this gap with another menhir, that creates two ley lines that will score separately, but ley lines stop as soon as they hit a menhir. So we have one here between these two and one here between these two, but there's not a long ley line between these two menhirs because this one blocks it. If you place a menhir that lines up with multiple other menhirs on different axes, like placing this one right here, that creates a triangle between these two menhirs, and you would score both of these ley lines separately. The next new scoring variant is cities. Cities are represented by the city icon on a tile, and they increase the value of bonus points and waypoints during the game, and they increase the value of trade routes during in-game scoring. When you enclose an area with a city, bonus points and waypoints in that area score 2 points instead of 1. And with the exception of the new special tiles, cities always straddle a land-sea border on their tile, so you'll score those double bonus points when you close off the land area and the sea area that you're touching. So adding this tile closes off this entire sea area, and because of this city tile right here, every bonus point in this entire area is going to score 2 points instead of 1. And having multiple cities does not increase the values more. No matter how many cities you have, it's only 2 points per bonus icon and waypoint. At the end of the game, when you're scoring trade routes, any trade route connected through one or more city tile scores 2 points per caravan or ship tile in the trade route instead of 1. And again, multiple city tiles does not increase the value anymore. So in this trade route, there's more ships than caravans, so that means that Sea will score 2 points for each ship and caravan in this trade route because it's touching this city. But it's important to note that cities are not part of trade routes. So instead of this ship, if this tile were here, you would have 2 distinct trade routes because this city does not connect them. It only gives them bonus points for touching the city. So when it comes time to score, each of these trade routes would score independently with bonus points because they're both touching the city. And the last new scoring variant in the Uncharted expansion is Bandits and Pirates, and this is used alongside ships and caravans. When you connect a bandit to a trade route, that bandit scores 1 point per caravan icon in that trade route when it's placed. And when you place a pirate, it scores 1 point for each ship in that trade route. So adding this bandit to this trade route would score 2 points for these 2 caravans, and adding this pirate to this trade route would score 4 points for these 4 ships. And pirates and bandits only score during the game and do not count as part of the trade route for in-game scoring. And that's Land vs. Sea and the Land vs. Sea Uncharted expansion. If you have any questions, be sure to leave us a comment below and we will answer as quick as we can. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you later. Bye.